Call the meeting to order. Don, can we do roll call, please?
Mayor Mahoney.
Here.
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Mr. Peterson. Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Ebinger.
Here.
Mr. Strand.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Shirley.
I'm here.
Mr. Grimberg.
Here.
Mr. Olson. Mr. Seldewald.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 27th, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the agenda, including items A, B, and C under other issues?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, including items A through D?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yeah, aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Aye.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Mr. Strand.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg.
Aye.
Mr. Seldewald.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Joel Paulson, executive report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And board members, we had a lot going on this last month. I think you saw from our board bulletin, if you happen to preview through that, there was, I think, about 10 different articles that the diversion was named in. A lot of great content in there about the progress of the project. Of course, the Corps of Engineers Senior Leadership Conference that they had here. I know we had Mayor Dardis, Mayor Mahoney, and Mayor Carlson present at that conference. So thank you guys for that. We got a lot of great feedback that the session was very well received. We also did a tour for about 50 engineering students from NDSU of the project on May 1st. And then Greg Thompson and I presented at the National Floodplain Managers Conference. At that conference, I also was able to catch up with Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army, Jamie Pinkham. We talked about the project. At the same time, the Assistant Secretary of the Army was here, Michael Connor. So a lot of great exposure for the project this last month, I think, in the media and just from a national attention standpoint. And then, of course, the leadership conference. So certainly open for any questions that you guys might have.
Any questions? We know the Corps went very well. They were very pleased with the project and seemed to hope that other places in the country could work so well together.
Yeah, and Mayor, I do know a number of other non-federal sponsors did come and present on certain aspects as well, and they did get exposure to our project too. So, so it was great to see the exposure and certainly, hopefully, some best management practices from what we've all done here can be conveyed to those programs as well.
Is that all you have today?
That's all I have for you.
Come on, Joel. It's usually 3 slides.
That's all I have. We'll have more at the end, pertinent to more technical issues. So.
Okay. General Console update, John Shockley, nothing. Construction project updates, who's doing that?
Thank you, Mayor Mahoney, members of the board. Tom Fuchs here. I'll pinch hit for Terry Williams, starting with the Corps Southern Embankment Program. Diversion inlet structure, we are highlighting that in this month's video. I'll try to touch on the highlights only here, not double up as much as I can. But bridge decks, railings atop the structure, mechanical equipment for gate operations has been received in the last month for Diversion Inlet. While the Rice River structure continues to make good progress, not pictured in our video, but working on the flood wall bridge decks as well, leading up to the control structure itself on either side. On the east side west side, is where they're starting. Also, Southern Embankment crossing the Wild Rice River. End of March, I think everyone knows the river was rerouted through the structure The embankment continues east over towards I-29, so they're working on that as it needs to cross the Wild Rice, the now abandoned oxbow of the Wild Rice. Next, I-29 project, lots of work going on there. Also highlighted in this month's video, major focus right now is permanent completion of the southbound lanes of I-29 from end to end. So we do have traffic shifted head-to-head on the bypass right now. The northbound bypass, southbound removals have started as well. So, and bridge deck placement in last couple weeks as well on the northbound permanent Borrowditch Bridge. Southern Embankment Reach 1, just in the turf establishment phase of that project. So working on O&M manuals as noted. Red River Structure, lots of progress happening there, highlighted in the video. First of the permanent concrete foundation pours, lots of work has had to happen leading up to that. So pretty big milestone there, moving very rapidly. Sheet piling in other areas of that project is continuing as well as the concrete's starting to be placed. Drain 27, we did hear that the Corps awarded a contract on May 17th for the native plantings project, plantings and 5-year service contract there. So just expected in the coming weeks that project to start. Drayton Dam, the last update we had heard is that the work had not started yet this spring, expecting to start shortly. Southern Embankment Reach SE2A, kind of a similar scenario. We're hearing in the next 2 weeks that project will resume just east of Diversion Inlet. Other than that, I can attest that the designs are progressing. Regular meetings, weekly basis, progressing on schedule. Lots of meetings, lots of topics, and hashing those out. Any questions related to the core programs?
Any questions of
Southern
Tom?
Embankment?
Mr. Strand?
Thank you. This is an odd question maybe, but when you're doing your native plantings, do we incorporate carbon sequestration into those types of plants we pick, or do we go that route and get that type of counsel?
It's a great question. Thank you, Commissioner Strand. I don't actually know that. It would be a great question for Terry herself or members of the Corps.
I'll leave it at this. Let's do that going forward if we aren't already.
Okay.
There's some really good resources locally that can help us pick types of plants that would be better for a climate future
Sure.
versus others.
Thank you.
Tom, I think some of the Corps already has recommendations in the project outline, don't they? On plantings that they have to put in restore?
Yeah. There's a wide variety, as I understand, throughout the Drain 27 project. There's I think it's like 350 some acres in total. Close to 300 of that is wetlands. And so by and large, that's a mitigation project to create wetlands that are displaced in other areas as a result of the project. There are upland species or portions of the project as well. But in terms of specific to Commissioner Strand's question, I'm having trouble speaking.
So Joel, maybe we could do a report next month, just what's going on in there to his question, because I think in our communities, Moorhead, Fargo, I know sometimes even West Fargo, pollinators are part of what we do in different areas, and we do a variety of different mixes for all our communities that tries to address some of what Commissioner Strand's talking now. But it might be nice to see what the Corps is doing and what the P3 group is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't speak to the Corps' planting mix, but I know on our P3 on the channel, we have specified an all-native planting mix, which was actually quite difficult to come across. So every species of plant and vegetation that we're using on the P3 project is native to North Dakota. And the intent is to return this acreage back to natural prairie land, which of course is very good for pollinators and those sorts of things. Just to speak to your carbon sequestration question. I know for wetlands, unless you harvest those wetlands, it's hard to get the actual carbon material out. So the plants will obviously grow and pick up carbon and nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen, which are good for cleansing the water. But unless you harvest those and continue to have them grow and harvest them, you're really not, they're capped at the amount of uptake of nutrients and carbon that they can take up. And so far, we haven't really looked at that as a process related to the diversion channel operations and those sorts of things. But we certainly could look into that, Commissioner Strand, and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Very good. Tom, anything else?
I will continue if there's no further questions.
Okay.
We'll roll into the stormwater diversion channel associated infrastructure project. So we've got our map this month. I will touch on first, actually starting with the design progress update. So we've surpassed 1,200 review cycles for the P3 portions of the project. We have 77 approved designs, 58 utilities, 19 others, and 63 submittals currently in review. As far as construction is concerned, channel Reach 3, just west of the Interstate 29 up north, actually has resumed. That's pictured in our drone view. West from there and south, turning the corner headed south, we've got Reach 4 and 5 starting in the next 30 and 60 days respectively. Bridge crossings, we are highlighting in our video, both County Road 81 and 32 are just underway. With the bypass construction at County Road 81 and preparation for surcharge embankments and wick drains at County Road 32. Just this week, not pictured in our video, I-29 bypass has also started, just underway. Drain inlets just starting Drain 30 as well. And then the diversion outlet and Drain 29, those two are kind of connected in terms of schedule sequence and logic. That Drain 29 kind of parallels the last mile or so of the channel. So those will be starting here in the next 30 to 60 days. Last item of note, Maple River Aqueduct, next 30, 60 days with actual construction, permanent features of work. Excavation will be the first thing they do there. But we are just starting to build access improvements to that site. It's a little remote, and so yeah, right north of West Fargo and west from there, there's about 2 miles of existing kind of township roads, and then the last mile is on the channel alignment to access that site. So those improvements are happening now as well. I will stand for any questions on the P3 project.
Any questions, group? Okay.
Melted, the pace of construction on the FM area diversion ramped up this past month. I'm Tom Fuchs, the Senior Construction Manager for the Metro Flood Diversion Authority, with your progress updates. Our drone view begins at the Red River structure, which is the largest of the 3 gated structures on the project. With the driven H-pile foundations, stabilization slabs, formwork, and rebar completed in advance, Ames Construction poured the first of the structure's foundations on May 5th. Nearly 2,300 cubic yards of concrete went down in a single placement, enough for more than 10 miles of sidewalks. It was the first of many pours to come. Concrete was also poured at the diversion inlet structure, which is further along than the Red River structure. Crews have now completed the mechanical platform and vehicle service bridge decks, as well as multiple segments of the floodwall bridge railings, bringing it to 93% completion. Nearby on I-29, work continues for raising a 4.2-mile stretch of the interstate out of the 500-year floodplain. The project began in 2021, and drivers will be happy to hear work is anticipated to wrap up this year. Crews are focusing on permanently completing the new southbound lanes and have now begun removing portions of the bypass lanes. More concrete went down at this site too, as the northbound Boroditch bridge deck was poured mid-month. Altogether, the project totals grew by about 5,400 cubic yards of concrete placed in the past few weeks. That's enough to fill 2 hot air balloons. While the weather has facilitated the concrete pours, it hasn't been as cooperative for excavating. The clay soil being dug out for the 30-mile stormwater diversion channel has been especially sticky due to the recent snowmelt and rain. Despite that, ASN Constructors is moving forward on the northernmost reaches of the channel. They have also initiated new work on some of the channel's road crossings. At County Road 32, they are preparing to install wake drains and surcharge embankments, which will mitigate long-term settlement along the roadway approaches to the new bridge. They also began constructing the bypass at County Road 81. For road detour updates and project information, go to fmdiversion.gov.
Very good. Amy Weiser, Communication Team update.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor and members of the board. The communications team decided we needed to add a little bit to the long list of project awards, and we found out this week the Diversion Current placed first in the North Dakota Professional Communicators Contest. The summer construction update video that we did last year was second place, and our LinkedIn page received third place in that competition. Last month, we released the Faces of the Diversion video with Katie Levine, and she really focused on some of the environmental pieces. And we got a lot of great content in that interview that I think we can continue to use and repurpose that touches on everything from the native grasses to the long-eared bat. So you should be seeing more of that in the future. In terms of media relations, we sent out a news release welcoming Jessica Warren, our new compliance specialist. And Joel had the opportunity to speak with the forum about some of the diversion's passive features and how those will be of benefit in the future. Beyond that, I have a quick update again on the newsletter, and it's continuing to perform very well, significantly above average on opens and clicks and below in bounces and unsubscribes, which is what we want to see. Are there any questions I can answer for you today?
Any questions of Amy? Thank you. Land management update, Jody Smith.
Good afternoon. So we have our typical report here. If you scroll to the next slide, you'll see there's a slight increase in the number of parcels that were acquired for the construction footprint and a slight increase of just over 1% for the UMA footprint. So we're up to just under 38%. On the next slide, you can see again some additional progress moving forward on the southern embankment, upstream mitigation area. And of course, we always like to see that we're continuing to close on environmental monitoring easements. And then on the final slide is just, I'll keep going through to the next one, Peggy, just the key activities that we've been working on, again, continuing to work to negotiate to settle all eminent domain cases. Batch 7 offer letters were sent out, just so you know. The last written offer letters, one of those, the Cass County Joint Water Resource District has already approved. And the only other property owner that was in Batch 7 will have a settlement offer going to the board meeting on June 8th. So hopefully there won't be any eminent domain filings out of Batch 7. We did work to reconfigure the future batches schedules for remaining properties. Everything should be in a batch and approved for eminent domain by the end of October of 2023. And then we did initiate the right of entry process from property owners for the Cheyenne River Habitat Improvement Project, which I know Joel will be speaking a little bit more about here at the end of this meeting. In this last month, 5 parcels with 4 landowners have successfully closed, and 49 farm leases have been completed for the upcoming leasing session. I know we have about a half dozen more leases to secure here in the upcoming week. So open to any questions you might have, though.
Any questions from the group? Kind of a quiet group today, Kevin. What do you think?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Mayor Dardis, how are you today?
Just fine, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you in the mood to give us a report?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee met yesterday. Bills presented to the Diversion Authority were a total of $10,965,389. Our net cash position remains at $957,685. In addition to that, there were a number of items that were discussed with regarding to utility relocations and all of those types of things, all of which met favor with the Finance Committee. All were approved. You'll see also the City of Fargo work plan for projects bid in 2023. We had an amendment for that, and I don't know if somebody else wants to go into all the details. Mr. Fook? All right. I'll defer to him.
Thank you, Mayor Dardis. That's correct. So we are making a motion today to approve the 2023 development plan summary sheets and the estimated total project costs for the NR 23A1 City of Fargo Local Flood Protection Project. It's a 6% total budget increase resulting from bids open 426, about 8% above the engineer's estimate, and then some corresponding adjustments made to project contingencies and construction service budgets related to that project, which are consistent with prior projects and circumstances. I will stand for any questions.
The difference is $656,579.90 for a new project budget total of $11,664,829.90.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes?
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger,
Yes.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley,
Yes.
Mr. Grimberg,
Aye.
Mr. Selchwold.
Aye.
That is everyone.
That completes your report.
Does. Thank you.
Thank you. Other business, Cheyenne Habitat Mitigation Project, Joel.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. As the board's aware, we have been dealing with fish passage on the aqueduct structures for quite some time. This issue goes back over a decade. Our environmental commitments are to maintain fish passage across the aqueduct structures for the Cheyenne and the Maple River aqueducts. We have finally found resolution with this issue with the state agencies and the Corps of Engineers, and we have found a permittable solution. And I'll get into just a minute technical detail, but feel free to ask any questions if you want some additional clarification. But obviously, here's a rendering of the aqueduct structure, and the rivers will go over the stormwater diversion channel. The next slide shows the proposed design from RRVA. This is what they're expecting to construct at the Cheyenne River as it crosses the stormwater diversion channel. And I'll just note a couple features here. The river is flowing from the bottom of this slide to the top. And you can see the aqueduct structure indicated there. And then we have the spillway just adjacent to the aqueduct structure. That spillway will spill the flood flows or any flows greater than what can be crossed through the aqueduct structure. So in essence, the aqueduct structure is a flood control element because no more water will be able to get through the Cheyenne River system than what we allow it through the aqueduct system. The problem comes with fish passage during flood events is when we start to drop a majority of water through that spillway into the stormwater diversion channel. It creates an upstream draw down that increases the velocities above normal river velocities, such that fish are not able to migrate during flood events. So our engineers really on our team and with HMG came up with some concepts to install rock rapids and riffles upstream of the Cheyenne aqueduct structure, as well as some channel improvements and habitat improvements for about a 2-mile stretch upstream on the Cheyenne River. This will in fact stabilize the river system within those 2 miles. It also has the effect of reducing those velocities back to near existing conditions, and which allows us to have acceptable fish passage with North Dakota Game and Fish and the Minnesota DNR. So it was a very ingenious design. I really credit our engineers for kind of thinking outside the box on this one, because this has been an issue that folks just had a big question mark on for quite some time, and a lot of the engineers just didn't know how we were going to accomplish it. So we are working through the process of contracting with HMG to get them moving on the design. On the next slide, you can see the impacted parcels. These are new impacted parcels along the Cheyenne River system. The impacts to these parcels are going to be fairly minimal as far as an acreage standpoint. Most of the work on the river will take place along the banks of the river and at or near the ordinary high water level. We do anticipate some level of vegetation loss through this reinforcement as we widen parts of the Cheyenne River and create more flow area to slow those velocities down. We've already had a public landowner meeting with the landowners that may be affected by this project. We received a lot of questions from them. Obviously some clarification of why we're doing this now and why this kind of came up. It really wasn't until we received the developer's design a few months ago that we were able to actually put detailed modeling into place and come up with this proposed solution. So we will continue to work with these landowners to find acceptable solutions and impacts to their parcels. But this will be a project that is necessary to meet our NEPA requirements and our permitting requirements through the Corps of Engineers. So it's, kind of bittersweet. We are anticipating the total cost of this somewhere around a $15 million mark, which we did allow for a $20 million contingency for this issue in the P3 budget. So the anticipated costs of this project fall well within our anticipated costs for this issue. And we're going to work diligently to continue to wrap this up and keep the P3 developer on schedule and start these aqueduct construction projects as planned. So certainly open to any questions. This is for your information. No action needs to be taken. But understanding that this is a pretty major addition to the program, certainly willing to entertain any questions and comments that you may have.
Kevin wants to know where the fish would be mostly there when he wants to go out fishing.
Well,
he has a hard time catching walleye in Minnesota. So.
That's a good question, Mayor. And because these aqueduct structures are heated, I would probably anticipate they're going to be at the aqueduct structures, and we can create a small fishing pier there for Commissioner Campbell if he'd like. So.
It's a recreational feature.
I'll outfish him any day.
Do we need any action on this item?
No action, just for information. So as we talk about this part of the program, this will be referred to as the Cheyenne Habitat Mitigation Project.
Minnesota legislative update. And I'll actually ask Mayor Carlson, although you're on the thing, but I think she has bragging rights on this.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Chair Mahoney. And for the Minnesota legislative update, as everyone probably knows, the legislature ended this past weekend. And out of our request for flood mitigation on the Minnesota side, we were able to obtain $11 million, which will go towards 3 projects within the city of Moorhead.
And you have something, we always get trapped by trains over there. You got something on trains too?
We always have something on trains.
Got additional money for underpass, not overpass, right?
Correct.
Good. Joel, you want to compliment that, or was it the hard work of the team, or did our Minnesota team do well?
I think the city of Moorhead and their staff did an exceptional job, lobbying for the flood control money. We worked with the MCC-JPA to make an additional request for county dollars to meet the Minnesota obligation in the JPA. Unfortunately, there was only $40 million that was allocated to flood control across the whole state of Minnesota. So it was maybe a little frustrating. We didn't see more there given their massive surplus that they had last year. But I believe we'll continue to work with MCC-JPA to continue to make additional requests in the future for additional flood mitigation dollars for the program.
Super. Authority Administrative Building, fill contract.
Okay, this is an actionable item. We did discuss this at the Finance Committee meeting yesterday. Just a little background. This is for the Authority Administrative Building that we do have in the P3 contract, and that is expected to start construction fairly soon. This facility will be located on 100th Avenue in between the city of Horace and I-29. We are anticipating this building to be constructed at or near the height of the top of the southern embankment. And so that requires quite a bit of fill in order to create a pad for the building site itself. During preliminary design and discussions, with the Corps of Engineers. It was evident that there may be additional material from the Corps' projects that they were building nearby. That has since been apparent that we are not going to get the amount of material that we were anticipating from the Corps for various reasons. And so in order to keep the developer on schedule and prevent any sort of a compensation delay event with the developer, we are asking the board to allow us to go out and get bids for material hauling to the site so that we can bring the remaining material and have it placed and ready for RRVA when they anticipate construction of this pad and building on July 1st. The Finance Committee did approve the ability for us to go out for bids and approve those bids with the review of myself and the Chair of the Board of Authority, Mayor Mahoney. And so we're asking the board here today to possibly have a motion consistent with that that would allow us to move forward with this item.
Any questions with Joe on this particular item? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Aye.
Mayor Dardis,
Yes?
Mayor Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger,
Aye.
Mr. Strand,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling, Mr. Grinberg,
Aye.
Mr. Selzwald.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you, Mary. We got it. Shirley, yes, as well. Next meeting, June 22nd, 2023. Commissioner Strand, you got any birthdays? Anybody here on this board that has anything we need to celebrate?
I won't embarrass Martin.
Okay, thank you. Move to adjourn? We're adjourned.